welcome everybody to the Creator Academy, brought to you by Supercell. Big thank you guys for tuning in today and being here. Got an exciting panel for you. We are going to be talking about live streaming, building your communities, getting them to engage, and ultimately maximizing the potential of your audiences in gaming. We've got a great panel for you today. Let's bring in some of our special guests. First and foremost, we have Roberto Blake. He's going to be joining us here to give us all of his sage wisdom and advice from across his many years in the content creation space. And then we also have Lex Knows, who is endemic to the Supercell ecosystem, coming up through Clash of Clans. We go way back, and excited to have both of these gentlemen here today. So welcome both of you guys. Obviously, Roberto, we'll start with you, my friend. Would love for you to give just a brief background on, I guess, your experience in content creation and a little bit of a story of how you came up, so we can kind of map some of your experiences to some of the stuff you'll say today.
Yeah, no problem. So my name is Roberto Blake, and I am what they refer to affectionately as an OG content creator. So I've been on YouTube pretty much since the beginning of the platform in 2006. YouTube came around in 2005, was bought by Google in November of 2006, and I've been on the platform since roughly about then. I didn't start taking YouTube seriously until 2013, and I went in 2015 from 20,000 subscribers to 100,000 subscribers in 14 months by the spring of 2016. Then I was doing daily content back then. It was mostly tutorial stuff around software. It was how to help you do Adobe and do video editing, photo editing, graphic design, because that was my corporate background. I used to work in advertising. Also worked in the tech space for a while at a web hosting company back in the good old days, the .com days. So I've been around for a very long time, been doing this. I've made 1,600 videos on YouTube. I've done over 2,000 hours of live streaming across multiple platforms. And I've coached at this point in my career over 500,000 creators with a combined 5 billion views. And I've worked with a ton of Supercell creators in the last year, and I know that I've coached specifically over 100 gaming creators. Many of them are really tremendous creators in their own right. My favorite person I think I've worked with in the gaming space is my friend A-Drive, who is a fantastic content creator in the Pokemon space. He launched his own TCG gaming card game, Celestials, which is doing really well. It's one of the fastest funded Kickstarters of all time. I helped with some of the insights on that campaign, and it's just been really great to talk to so many different content creators from different backgrounds over the years and their experience. I've had the pleasure of working directly with YouTube on a couple of projects. I've gotten to work with multiple brands over the years and learn a lot about the back end of how they are doing their influencer marketing, their affiliate programs to pay creators, the way that they handle their side of the negotiation with brand deals. And so what I've done is I've tried to just pass on everything I can to the next generation of content creators, help as many people go full-time as possible. And I'm always experimenting with how to grow and how to monetize. I still experiment on my own channel and have its ups and downs. I also wrote a book that helps content creators start. It's called Create Something Awesome. So really excited about this. It's been great hanging out with Lance, aka Powerbang, and everybody at the AMG family. And shout out to Rick over at Supercell.
Amazing, man. We'll look forward to peeling back the layers of all of the various things you just mentioned there today. We'll transition to Lex. Lex knows you and I go way back, dude. We were coming up in the Clash of Clans communities together back in the day, 3-star and bases together and whatnot. You got far better than me, took it to soaring new heights, which I love to see. Give us a little bit of your history and kind of where you came from in the space.
Yeah, my resume in the streaming industry is a little more straightforward, but I've been doing YouTube and streaming really consistently for about 4 years now. I came up through sort of the esports scene, like Powerbang just mentioned. I was a Clash of Clans addict back with him many years ago, and then it kind of transitioned to this point where a lot of my friends convinced me to try to just get out there, make a couple of videos, maybe even do a live stream, just show people how I play the game. And I ended up doing that, and it very quickly transitioned from just, being an esports player and showing off my gameplay to slowly becoming an entertainer over time and building a community of people who love to interact with my live streams almost every single day. and I've been doing it consistently for pretty much 4 years now, and just love going about it, challenging myself, trying to figure out new ways to improve, different ways of testing how to, build communities and get better at streaming every day. And I just love the community. And I love how it's not a simple, binary thing. Either you're good at streaming or you're not. There's a million different ways you can go about it and bring alongside a lot of people who enjoy your content with you.
Amazing. You mentioned community. You mentioned a lot of the people that you're able to reach. And that's kind of where I want to dive in today, because the whole point is kind of engaging your community, building that foundation that you have to kind of engage with, to show off content for, and really just interact. And live streaming is different from like VOD content and creating videos, because you really get a true opportunity to kind of peel back the layers of yourself, peel back the curtain and show people like who you are as a person instead of the filtered view that most people get through editing. So I want to talk about like your audience and I guess how you understand their preferences. How do you kind of understand who is watching you, who gets enjoyment from your content? Was there any thought or ideas behind that when you first started, Lexnos, or was it just, hey, I'm really good at the game and people are coming to me for, trying to learn essentially?
I think it kind of started that way in my early days of content creation. I definitely felt like I had this sort of advantage where I was, at least at the time, very high level in the game. And so people would come and check out my content, or at least it would be easy to promote my content within certain communities because of my stats in the game. And I could try to show people how I play and, maybe even make educational type content, help them improve, or just simply show them, my good games, my good attacks within the game. But it very quickly, I say quickly, it might have been months and months, but over time transitioned into something where I was seeing constant feedback every single day, seeing people talk to me, seeing them interact with me, giving me, tips on my actual content, my editing, my live, the ways I would interact live and stuff. And it transitioned into this thing where it didn't feel so one-sided, where it's like I'm trying to make this tutorial or make this video for a specific kind of person. Live streaming turned into this sort of dance where it was back and forth, where I try to entertain, but I also, very much feed off of my audience in order to keep that conversation, that gaming experience going.
I love that, the reference to like a dance. It is like this dynamic interaction. It's a give and it's a take, and it's really kind of consistently tapping the audience and having your ears and eyes open to what they're reacting to or what they engage with, and doing more of that or less of it if it's something that is not so great. Roberto, for you, we've talked a lot about like your audience avatar, right? And my initial question to Lexnos is like, how do you understand the audience, their preferences? How do you know who you're speaking to? Talk to us a little bit about the audience avatar, what that means, and how you end up, targeting a viewer or a type of person or a specific demographic.
Yeah, so in terms of a gaming reference, super OG gaming reference, you could almost think of this as filling out one of those good old-fashioned D&D character charts and everything, but instead of the character you're playing, it's the person that you're catering to. So that's how I think a lot. And when you look at things in YouTube, for example, you're able to get some sense of who that is if you've already been creating content. But I want you to go deeper with that. And I want you to start to imagine this person. And the way I like to do it is I actually took it to an extreme. I actually created a physical representation of this person. You could kind of do that with some of these AI tools like ChatGPT and Midjourney. And then I started actually running down a bunch of questions that you should think of. Actually, I can pull my notes real quick, and I can tell you some of the questions you should ask yourself to try to determine your customer avatar. You need to think about what's the age range of most of them. And you should start to look at that. And you should also look at things like, obviously, you want to go age, gender, location, but you want to think a little bit deeper even than that. You want to start thinking about, okay, education levels, because you want to start thinking about, if I'm reaching a younger audience, are they in school during certain hours? So then maybe it's not good to upload during these hours, or, hey, vacation time is this, that, next and the other. So for those of you who have young audiences, you should really look at a lot of aspects of their lifestyle and say, what does their day-to-day life look like? If you have an older audience, you need to be thinking about, okay, maybe I upload at a time that makes it easy for them to watch when they get off of work. That sort of thing. So you want to look at that. You want to look at some of their adjacent interests and hobbies and the lifestyle stuff, because the other part of that is this is what's going to help you figure out what the right brand deals are for your audience and what else you can offer them when it comes to those brand deals to say, this isn't something that directly affects the game or makes you a better gamer, but because if your audience is usually a bunch of, for example, it's males 18 to 35, there are products that make sense from a holistic standpoint to partner with brands to offer them or to put as ad reads in your content, even as a gamer or especially as a gamer. So you could look at things like that. You could look at their other interests and hobbies, and that might give you an idea of things that they might be into. And you could look at brands that they are familiar with and say, this is part of maybe the design aesthetic that I'm going to use because of these other interests and hobbies they have. Like maybe your community aligns to where you see that I have a lot of people who are fans of this game, but the fans that I have that are fans of this game are also fans of anime and that culture. So maybe you add some of those things aesthetically to your design and branding, especially around the merchandise that you're selling. You start to incorporate elements and aspects of that could help you. So you look at things like that. You look at things like their buying behavior. Hey, you play this game, but what accessories are you buying, gamer? Even as a mobile gamer, what other accessories? What phone brand do you use? What do you like? Those type of things actually play a role. And as I said, that also can lead into how you develop your own merchandise, how you develop your brand and sponsor relationships, could even be affiliate link opportunities. You also want to look at their challenges and pain points. You want to figure out, hey, I might be playing this game. Am I onboarding brand new people to the game? And is that who's watching me? Or is it people who themselves may not even be trying to become a better player and they're not watching like strategy guides or attack guides? Maybe it's that you're a pro player and your audience isn't pro players, but they are people who are fans of the game and enthusiasts, whether they're casual players, where they feel they're serious players and they're just invested in it. And so you could position against that and say, okay, here's content that maybe helps some people over here if they're trying to become a better gamer. Here is also just for people who want to watch what a competitive level gamer even looks like and are having fun and being entertained by watching that higher level of ability and content. So that's something I also tell people that they should look at. You should also look at, if you develop your audience, let's say you follow some people back from your community in Twitter, which is a big thing I do. If you look at some of the brands that they follow, that could actually be a really good lead gen for you to say, a lot of my audience is following these brands, these companies. Do they sponsor content creators? Maybe I should reach out. Maybe I should build that relationship, because then maybe I have another opportunity to monetize. So when I look at the audience avatar, it's about the total profile and the psychology and behavior of the type of viewer that you have and trying to figure out what they are likely to do. And that's what you learn by studying them, talking to them, running polls, running quizzes, running surveys in your community tab, looking at your YouTube analytics, but also engaging and following them in Twitter and Discord servers and being a real part of the community. And then saying, you know what, this is the type of person that represents or is kind of that everyday voice of the community. And this is what represents them. And that's who I'm going to focus on.
That's amazing. You said something right at the end there too, which kind of leads into the next thing that I want to peel back. So I do want to get into not only kind of setting the table foundationally about how are we thinking about our audience and, who are we actually speaking to, but also want to get into some of the tactics, right? And, what strategies can we employ to actually increase that engagement and have our communities feeling tighter knit, more engaged, just really wanting to participate. So for Lexnos, what are some of like the features or strategies or tools that you use to actually get that audience engaged? Are there any that stand out to you as being like really effective?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen creators go about this tons of different ways. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no like one particular thing that you have to do. Some things that have worked for me in my community just to help me kind of stand out from other creators that are covering, the same topics in the same game as me is, something that Roberto hinted at earlier is just trying to, be human, be unique, show a little bit more about your personality, make yourself not just always seem like a gaming robot. If you particularly cover, one game predominantly and do the same type of stuff almost on a daily basis, simple things like having pet cams. You can see my little kitty taking a nap right there. In my old office that I just moved out of, I had a second camera and a third camera set up for different angles, with one with a cat cam, another one with a dog cam. My two dogs would wrestle, and it was hilarious. And just in between games, I would switch to pet cams, and people would love it. They would talk about it in the chat. Doing other things like simple Q&As, trying to find ways to get the audience to answer questions in real time. And it doesn't even have to be pre-planned Q&As. You know, it can be lots of stuff on the fly where you're just asking audience for advice, you know, instead of always trying to be the professional and trying to tell other people, you know, about the game or what's happening in the game. Sometimes you can just interact with your audience and ask them what you should do within the game, or ask them questions about life or anything in general. And stuff like that has been really great for me. Sometimes also even just hopping on some cool little trends, you know, TikTok trends, YouTube Shorts trends that we see all over the place. If some of those are fun and can really vibe with your content personality, you can try to incorporate some of those from time to time.
That's awesome. So as far as, you know, understanding the trends, you do feel it's helpful to consume content and media in order to kind of have an understanding of what's popular, what's popping right now. Are you guys both proponents of kind of staying engaged like that, or are you kind of, you know, working so much that it's difficult to stay on top of some of those trends? I'll go with you for the follow-up first, Lexnos, but I'll come to you in a second, Roberto.
Yeah, I think it could be a tricky balancing act. You hear a lot of people talk about, you know, creators need to just create. But I also feel like there is some aspect to it that you sometimes can get too tunnel vision, too focused on one style of content, or do the same thing for too long. And sometimes the market starts to shift away from that. Sometimes people tend to prefer other styles of content, other styles of editing, other styles of even interaction. So the best way to stay on top of the market and what the people are enjoying is to see what other people are creating and what other successful creators are doing with their content and why they are successful. And that can help give you some perspective on ways you can kind of pivot or just tweak your content in order to help, you know, give your viewers what they want.
No, I appreciate the perspective there. And Roberto is somebody with a lot of irons in the fire and a million things going on. How important is content consumption to kind of informing your strategy and staying on top of the industry in general? Where do you kind of prioritize that in your own day-to-day?
What I've learned well over a decade of doing this is that you have to be careful about the overconsumption thing, because that can become a rabbit hole and it can easily become a distraction. It's not that I believe you should be in creator only mode. I think you should also have a holistic life. You should make all of this right size in your life, and you should do other things outside of it, have hobbies, relationships, all those things. But if you're going to consume content, I don't believe in consuming it just to consume it. I think you should be intentional, and you should curate who your content consumption sources are going to be. And you should do that to stay on top of the industry. So you should kind of pick authoritative sources in the industry. You should figure out, okay, who represents maybe a journalism aspect, and then let me get maybe 3 to 5 of those people, follow them with notifications on. Let me follow the platforms themselves and the support accounts for the platforms, and let me do that. Let me look at some of the plugins and apps for the platforms and tools and follow them, because they'll also have insider info or updates and things, and there might be room to ask. And then let me find some leaders in my industry that are always thoughtful, always helpful, always encouraging, and let me follow them. Then maybe you find a group of your own people that you're very close to in your community that otherwise people would consider competitors. I believe that every creator should look and find people who are so-called theoretical competitors, and should build a friend group of 3 to 5 of these people. And you should build your own kind of private little Discord or text group or DM chat or mastermind, and that you should constantly push each other, encourage each other, test each other, work out ideas. Now, if you're in the gaming space, maybe you don't all play the same game, but maybe you are in a similar ecosystem or genre. So maybe you're all FPS gamers, maybe you're all Supercell creators, maybe you're all mobile gamers, etc. Maybe 1 or 2 people from your game could be helpful, just so that you guys have built-in collaborations. I would even go so far as to formally build an alliance where every week you share a video from each other in your community tabs, so that you all can really benefit each other and grow together. If it's appropriate, you collab if you do similar enough things, stream together, that sort of thing. But also support each other in the background and say, if you get a brand deal, you should bring that back to like kind of your people and say, hey, brand, I also recommend these people. I think they're very good. Take a look at them, reach out, or I'm happy to introduce you. So that's a big thing that a lot of people do not realize can happen when you have really good relationships and you build alliances in this industry. You build relationships and friendships thoughtfully. Again, it is, yes, you're helping each other's careers, but you do care about each other and you trust each other. You have to have that. With the curation of viewing content, you want to be really careful about consuming content that serves you in some way, so that you say, okay, I am on the latest thing. I don't think you should chase trends into oblivion, because if you build too much of your content strategy on trend jacking, as useful and as effective as it is, it gets to a point where people are not watching for you. They're watching because it's the latest and greatest shiny object thing. What you have to do is incorporate enough of your personality and enough of building the community and caring about people to where they become invested in you and not just the latest trend. So I would just be kind of careful about chasing trends over a cliff, and becoming the latest and greatest, newest thing is always what I jump on, because what you want is a foundation for a strong community that shows up for you.
Those are great insights and pieces of advice. And I want to invite you guys watching the stream in chat right now. If you have any questions at any point during the broadcast panel today, please leave them in chat. We'll definitely engage with you guys and make sure that we are answering your questions, whether that's immediately or towards the end of the show. Happy to do that, but wanted to prompt you now to make sure that you're thinking about things that you could ask these gentlemen. They have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience. And I realized right now that I did not introduce myself at the top of the show. Powerbang, got about 10 years in content creation myself, been a live streamer on many different platforms, and now also run Aftershock Media Group, which is a marketing agency, and we work with a lot of the top game developers out there, such as Supercell. So with that, happy to chime in and provide any type of support to any of your questions, so leave them in chat for us. Roberto, one of the things I wanted to tag along on some of your points about, I guess, content consumption, and this is something I think that a lot of creators and a lot of live streamers can kind of get wrapped up in that competitive side of things, right? Where you look at the other streamers that are covering your game or in your community, you look at them as competition. And for me, I look at everyone as a potential opportunity to collaborate first and foremost. It's like, what can we do together to amplify one another? But on top of that, when I'm really studying and trying to bring something to the table, oftentimes, you know, when somebody engages with you, it's because you're doing something new, different, unique, etc., and you're being your own individual. It's authentic, but it's not something that's just copying the latest trend or copying what somebody else is doing in the space. And I don't mean copy as in plagiarize and rip them off, right? I mean more take significant influence from to shape your product, right? So what I do when I'm trying to, you know, garner influence from something, or I'm trying to come up with an idea or be creative, I'll often go outside of the community or the space that I currently operate in to try to take ideas or insights from other communities, from other styles, genres. And what you said about picking different industries, different leaders, different thought leaders in different spaces, I think is incredibly valuable. That's something that's been able to help me over the course of my career, is taking ideas from unlikely sources, right? If I'm playing mobile games, if I'm playing Clash of Clans, it's unlikely that I'm going to go watch a video about, you know, zoo animals and take any sort of inspiration from that, but you never know. So once you like look at what is popular, who is performing, and then look at some of the tactics that they're employing, you can very easily map those to the type of content you create and try something new, try something different. And for me, that's had a decent amount of success, being able to do something maybe differently, or a different approach than others in my my community or ecosystem, trying to not necessarily just copy what everyone else is doing. So I just wanted to tag along on that.
Well, I mean, primary example, there was someone I was working with that I was able to talk to them. I think it might have been someone in one of the recent Supercell cohorts, actually. And what we were able to do is we were able to create title formulas inspired from Minecraft creators. We were able to look at Minecraft challenge videos, and we were able to swap out a couple of words and change that to fit what they were doing as a Supercell creator. And it made perfect sense, you know, because we could look at the structure of these things and say, okay, how do I turn that into a video for the game that I'm doing? And the thing is, people wouldn't have seen that or wouldn't have thought of that because a lot of people who might play this game, they don't have any awareness of the Minecraft community, for example.
100%, max town hall in 100 days or something, like you can tie things along by taking inspiration from other communities, which I think is super, super valuable. And again, I take a lot of influence from places that you would never expect. And so, again, I encourage you guys, if you're going to consume, don't feel like it has to be all mobile gaming, all Clash of Clans, all Brawl Stars, like all the time, right? Like get out there and try to consume different areas, broaden the horizons a little bit and see what inspiration that you can take and inject into the content. Want to talk a bit more on community. Lexnos, if you have any like strategies, tips, tricks, how do you foster a sense of community with your following? I mean, are you giving these folks a name? Do they have any special perks, privileges, etc.? Like, what have you done over the course of your streaming career to really make the Lexnos army, if you will, feel like they're part of a big community?
Yeah, there's definitely a few things that I've done. I can just speak straight from experience. Early days when I was starting to rise in my little community here in Clash of Clans and growing a following on Twitch, where I predominantly stream, I didn't have quite as many pets as I had now. I started out with just one bunny. You can't see him right now, but his name is Mochi. And he was really popular on my stream, and a lot of my followers loved him. Every time some of the consistent followers would log on, they would ask, how is Mochi? And, eventually we started a clan within Clash of Clans and called it Mochinos, which is basically Mochi, and then the second half of my name, Lexnos, and we just combined it. And so we basically created the Mochinos army, and it was a really fun thing to do because it started off as something so silly and simple, but it grew into this huge following, and even started calling, subscribers to the channel, part of the Mochinos army and whatnot. And every time someone would activate a paid subscription on Twitch, they were part of the Mochinos family. And simple stuff like that is how you can get people to feel like they're really part of a community, part of a family. So that's just one little thing I can speak from experience that I've been doing. Also, another thing that's just jumping out at me is just having a consistent streaming schedule. In the first year I was streaming, I was in grad school, I was working a job, and so still trying to stream on top of both of those. My streams were very inconsistent. Sometimes I would stream, during the morning. Sometimes I would stream in the afternoon. Sometimes I would do 2 a.m. streams because that's just the only time I could stream that day, and I would just stream from 2 to 4. But eventually, once I got out of grad school, I started having very consistent streams. I would almost always do the late morning into the afternoon. And when you build up that consistency over weeks and weeks and even months, people start to really get a feeling of they don't even need notifications on or not. If they've been watching you long enough, they just know if they open Twitch or YouTube at this time of the day, they're going to see Lexnos is live and they can come hang out. And it truly does make a difference over time.
That's awesome, man. And I love the approach on, like the pets and bringing that in. And I think the Clash and Supercell community in particular, you've got a lot of crossover with like Reddit and the cat community, man. There's a lot of like fun, like pet lovers in that ecosystem that I've seen over the years as well. So that's really cool that you've been able to kind of grow your stable, so to speak, of animals that you're able to put on broadcast. So very cool ideas for sure. And you touched on really one of the things that I kind of wanted to go to next, which was that consistency, which was the streaming schedule. It's incredibly important, but I want to go even deeper than just like showing up at the same time every day, every week, whatever your schedule happens to be, right? I want to talk about like the content segments themselves, right? Are you doing anything consistently within the content, specific segments where we have a bit that we do every Wednesday, every day, like whatever that is? Are you doing anything that people look forward to, come back for, anything like that? Or is the content, I guess a bit more organic in nature where you're just kind of seeing what happens within the game? I'll direct this at Lexnos first.
There were times in the past where I did do very curated segmented streams and even portions of the streams, and I'm very much considering going back to it because, like, for example, I've been very consistent with my morning and afternoon streams over the last couple of years, but I used to really also do nighttime streams, and even sometimes people during the day would ask like, hey, are we doing a nighttime stream tonight? Because my nighttime streams would be very different than my daytime streams. My daytime streams would be focused on X, Y, and Z in the game, focusing on pro matches or educational type stuff, the stuff that I'm used to doing that I think serve the largest portion of the audience at least on the YouTube side of things, because I would use live streaming on Twitch for the most part as kind of creating videos on YouTube as well, trying to, tackle two things at once. But then my nighttime streams would be much more laid back. We would be doing different type stuff. We would, instead of, focusing on pro matches, I would do much more interactive type content with the audience, because it was just really fun to, at night, I would invite whoever's watching me to literally come play the game with me, and we would get in the same clan in Clash of Clans. We would do friendly challenges. We would do all sorts of stuff like that. And there was definitely a different, I don't want to say a different audience, but there was certain portions of my audience that preferred that style. And so if you're able to sort of manage, satisfying different groups of your audience in different ways, it can be very beneficial to you.
That's an interesting approach for sure. And, learning about the different time slots that you stream in. For me, I have a lot of experience doing Clash After Dark, so to speak. And, there's definitely a different vibe that exists in the evening and in the nighttime. I don't know if it's people like just letting their hair down for the day, kicking their feet up, coming to chill, relax a little bit and wind down, versus like during the day, it's like, I'm still on the go, man. I still got my button all the way up to the top, and people are not quite to that point where they're as relaxed. So I definitely think there's something to that. And then Roberto, would love to kind of follow up, with a similar question with you. Do you have any strategies, tips, or tricks to kind of introduce those, those segments or repeat recurring content, if you will, into a live stream setting?
So interestingly, I think you can go so far as, organic is great, but you could consider pre-planning and actually launching like a series of live streams and scheduling them in advance, especially with YouTube. You can also do this with multi-streaming as well. But I find that you could, even if it's not full on preordained timestamps for chapters, you can kind of break the stream up into sections and segments, and you can do that. I also recommend a lot of prep work. I'm more introverted, which means that while I can, to some degree, if I'm really vibing with the audience, get some energy restored from the engagement, I find it actually more that it runs down my battery than anything, because I'm an introvert. So can we
pause on this point really quick, Roberto? I want to dive into this just a little bit deeper, like the whole
Sure.
concept of introverted versus extroverted. I think that many people have a misconception about what that actually means. Because I also identify as an introvert, right? Like, I can certainly be charismatic and be on camera and speak, do the same thing in person, right? Like, you would never look at me and think, oh man, he's introverted. But really, an introvert versus an extrovert, all that means is what gives you energy, right? Are you the type of person that goes into a public setting and really feeds off that energy, or does it wear you down? Do you feel drained after you go out in, to a party or something to that effect? So as an introvert, it's man, that took a lot out of me. I feel drained. As an extrovert, you feel like jazzed up and like, oh man, that was awesome. Let's do it again tomorrow.
Actually, I have the perfect gaming analogy for this. I have the perfect gaming analogy as a former WoW player and everything, hardcore WoW player. Is the difference between being a warrior and a mage. Mage is restored their energy and their mana by meditating, having a quiet space, sitting down, and being able to channel that energy, calm themselves down. The warrior relies on adrenaline. So the thing is, an extrovert is the warrior who relies on that adrenaline, the rush of combat, being out there, being among the people, and everything like that. Yeah, go get it. And the mage needs to have that quiet time and needs to be able to sit in silence for a minute to build back up their power.
Amazing. I didn't mean to interrupt, and I just wanted to clarify that point, because that's something that comes up a lot, and I feel like people kind of don't understand it many times when it comes to like introverts and extroverts. But anyways, carry on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So for me, I actually find that as an introvert, I benefit a lot from prep and planning and having things set up. I'm the kind of person, I love that for my content creation, I have things set up all the time. Like right behind me, you can't see it really, but it's like I have my other camera for filming in front of my bookcase, and then I have a green screen that can pull up instead of having to set up. I just roll it back, pull it up, and I have a green screen. I have all this prep work. I even have a Studio B in my basement. I have all this prep work where things are set up, cameras are set up, lights are mounted, cameras are mounted, everything is set, soundboard, pre-programmed packaged sounds and everything like that, video cut scenes, overlays, push a button, stream decks, 2 stream decks on a desk, all those things, camera switcher. I find that the prep work as an introvert gives me less anxiety about the live experience, having an agenda gives me less anxiety about the live experience, and I have room to where I can organically pivot, respond to the audience, react, go into a vibe, but I have things set up. And I think that takes a lot of pressure off, and it improves my on-camera performance, because while I'm capable, like you said, I'm charismatic and capable, I can wing it if I want to. But having all of those things at my disposal, knowing that I can push a button and something goes up, oh, I need a restroom break, I can push a button and now a video comes up for them to enjoy while I'm doing that as my own version of a commercial break. Having all of these pre-arranged, pre-designed assets, having the ability to know if I need to record videos, I can just go and flip 3 switches, and now I just go into my video now, and I can just go ahead and get that done. Those things actually release a lot of the tension and lets me emotionally be more committed and more present in the moment when it comes to doing my live stream. And then in terms of being able to do certain things to hype the engagement with the audience and be present, you can think in advance and say, well, we have polls, we have Q&A, we have this. A curated thing that I do sometimes is with my audience, and this actually gamifies my super chats a lot. My super chats are gamified by the fact that I might do channel reviews. And when I do channel reviews, there's a certain donation threshold for me to take a glance at your channel and see if I can give you 1 or 2 tips right off the top of my head for your channel, usually around thumbnail strategy a lot of the times. Other times it'll be about consistency, branding, and overall quality. Sometimes it'll be titles of like, oh, why didn't you do this? So on and so forth. And I find that people get really into that. I also try when I do my videos, even from a planning standpoint, I also think about the replay value of my videos. Now, I do educational live streams for creators similar to this. You might notice that some of my most popular ones have hundreds of thousands of views, and that they get replayed over and over and over again. And part of that is people like to go to the chapters, go to the nuggets, they use it as a study guide. This works in gaming too if you do it and if you position yourself for this type of thing, to where, there can be segments that are worth watching, but also worth rewatching. And also you can set this up to where you also know you're making segments, knowing that you're going to want to clip these and turn these into VODs later. So that's kind of my thought, is I believe in the prep work. And I think for someone like me, that might be a little bit more, let's say, for lack of a better word, a little bit more neurotic or high strung, then sometimes that prep just takes the pressure off.
I love that. So you said one thing that I want to kind of add a little context to, just in case it's helpful to anyone out there. You mentioned, throwing up a video or something when you go to take a bathroom break.
Yep.
That is something that I consistently see as kind of low-hanging fruit as an opportunity to increase your viewer engagement. Anytime somebody streams, right, you're typically live for 2+ hours, 2, 3, 4. If you're an all-day streamer, it could be 8 hours live, right, which is a long time to be streaming mobile games. But we're going to have to get up, right? Like, we need to go throw something in the microwave, run to the restroom, like whatever that needs to happen. You're going to step away from the desk for a moment. And that is the prime opportunity for people to dip out and say bye, right? So one of the things that I did a long time ago when I was live streaming was for any sort of like be right back screen, right? We've all seen them. They're the static, like, hey, be right back. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Drop me a follow. Like all of those types of calls to action that you'll normally see on that scene. Really de-emphasize the be right back aspect of it, and consider throwing up a highlight reel of some sort. Put up a montage that really is kind of fast-paced and engaging, because not only is it better than a static, hey, I'm not here right now screen, like telling people the obvious, but also you're giving them content and breaking up the pace in and of itself while you're away, right? So you can actually go take that bathroom break. You can run and, throw a Hot Pocket in the microwave or whatever. You can do that, come back, and if you've got a 3.5-minute highlight reel, you're good, man. And people just had a good time while you were gone. So that's something that, again, I'm not saying everybody has to do that, but that's just one opportunity to increase engagement and make sure that the people that were there when you left and took that break are there when you get back, at least more so than they would be if there was just a be right back screen.
I would tell everybody to do that. And I have another hack for you. I would tell everybody to make those things. But I would also tell people that in the lineup of making those things, and these things don't have to be that long. They can be about, like a good restroom break might be up to a minute. So like you could make a minute long kind of segment. Maybe it's a montage that might have a couple of 30-second ones back to back. So you get 90 seconds out of it, so that you got a little bit of buffer room here. But what you could do also is make sure that you make an animated little thing. You can get someone in Fiverr to do this for you that pops up your creator code if you have a creator code. That way that you have a chance to flash that on screen and remind people to go use your creator code in, or especially Supercell store, and then you can make some more money. Another thing you can do is if sponsorships and you're working and you're partnered with brands, you could have a skit that you made that functions essentially as an ad, and then your little breaks here, even in the highlight reel, there could be like, okay, highlight reel, then minor commercial break plug, then another highlight reel, and then, oh, I'm back now. And then that could be how it all works out. So it's an opportunity to actually double dip there in the fact that you can take a break, you can have the people still be engaged, and you still have an opportunity to passively monetize it.
That's right. Always be plugging, baby. All right, I want to shift gears for a second here. I want to go to the audience and take a question here. We've got Bella Blue coming in from Heyday. And Bella wants to know, this one's for Lex Knows, what do you think about using polls, Q&As, or any other tools in live streams?
I think they can be very useful tools. Obviously, there's going to be, some percentage of viewers that could care less about it, but there also is some percentage that you can't ignore of viewers that do love just that simple interaction. If they feel, if they are looking up to you and they feel like they have a say in anything that's going on in your live stream, it really helps to give them engagement. They go from not just being this mindless consumer that's just consuming content for no reason to being like, this is something I'm really enjoying, I'm having fun with, I'm getting to interact with this streamer that I may or may not look up to, and it can be very good in terms of the polls, Q&As as well. Depending on what you're doing Q&As about, it can give the audience different feelings. It can even make them like you more as a creator. It can make you feel more human if you're doing some sort of Q&A that gives off information about you as a person, or you in any aspect that's outside of the sort of content that you cover on a day-to-day basis. So both of those can be very useful tools just to keep people engaged. Even though some people might not care about them, it can be good. And those are typically sort of things that you can do without taking away from the rest of your content. You can often have polls or Q&As that are ongoing with the rest of your content anyway.
Amazing. Roberto, anything to tag along to Bella's question there?
Yeah, I would definitely encourage you to use polls and such during your live streams, but I would also encourage you to use polls and quizzes in the YouTube community tab specifically to drive just more overall engagement. I would also remind you that you can use the YouTube community tab when you schedule your live streams, and you can kind of promote them in advance there as well, and then they can get a little bit more reach. Also, when you do want to use things and you want to use any tool, tie it to a purpose and understand what you're supposed to get out of using the tool and what the intention is behind it.
Amazing. Appreciate the question, Bella. If anyone else has questions in chat, feel free to drop them. Again, we'll circle back to them when we can slide them in. But I do have some more questions. I want to ask these guys and pick their brains while we have them here. We talked a lot about ideas about building community, improving engagement, some tactics as well to do that. And I want to understand, when we do try something different and we put something out there and maybe take a different approach, or even try to evaluate what we've done to this point, we want to collect our audience's feedback. Obviously, one way to do that is sitting in the chair and staring at the chat, right? What are they saying? What is the the general opinion? But are there any additional ways to solicit feedback and really try to form an opinion on how you've been performing? Is the content fun, enjoyable? Are people engaging with it? Are there any other tactics that you can employ there to hopefully garner the feedback that you need in order to make decisions moving forward? Roberto, I'll come to you.
One, use your YouTube analytics. I know everyone's scared of it. I know everyone's terrified by it. I know it's emotionally triggering to go into your YouTube analytics, especially if you're not getting the results you want. But it is your good friend and ally. It is one of the best tools that you can actually use to have a better understanding of your audience, because you can go to things and you can see your peak concurrent viewers, you can see the retention graph, and so you can see a lot of those things and try to start make some judgment calls, and you can start to go back and realize, hey, when I do this, people leave. Hey, when I do this, people engage more and the number of chats goes up. So you can start to, you should kind of, to a degree, in my opinion, you should Monday morning quarterback your own lives. And you should go ahead and rewatch your live streams and look at the performance. So again, instead of just reading it in real time and trying to go off vibes, consider the opposite. Be analytical and tactical, and then just go back and rewatch it and Monday morning quarterback it and have some distance from it. Now that you're not live and you're not in the trenches, go back. Okay, let me think about it. Let me see what I'm doing there. Oh, you know what? I don't even like that there. Oh, I need to start thinking a little bit more about my framing or my facial expression, or, oh, I'm doing this, or, oh, that transition of moving from this to this in the game is taking too long, or, oh, what can I do to make things more engaging when I have a load screen going on so that people aren't bored? What can I do to keep the chat hype? How can I do this? How can I do that? So I would just really look at the opportunity to use analytics and data, and even just watching the replay as a viewer from a distance. And I would Monday morning quarterback it.
Amazing. And I do want to ask Lexnos the same question, just because he's got a different perspective coming from Twitch, where the analytics and the consumption of metrics is a bit different. I would love to understand if there's anything that you're doing to, I guess, solicit feedback from your audience and actually try to make actionable changes based on that feedback.
Yeah, one actionable tip I have from experience is I find that oftentimes when you're trying to figure out what you can do better through analysis, or even asking your audience what you could do better, and just leaving that sort of question open-ended, can just lead to analysis paralysis in so many ways. And your fans, your audience might not know how to answer it, how to tell you to be better. Sometimes you might not know how to answer that question yourself, because there's just a million different things you can think of. So one actionable thing I've found to be really great for me, really positive for me, is just basically split testing. Instead of trying to figure out, what's something I can do better, say, I've been doing X, let me try to do Y, which is just slightly different than X, and just see which one ends up being better, which one gets more views, or which one gets more engagement, which one people are liking today rather than yesterday. And if it works, stick with that, and then you can try Z next. Or if it doesn't work, you dump Y, you stick with X, and then you try Z next. And so split testing, so to say, different content styles or different slight variations that you're trying to think about can be sometimes more effective for people, rather than just trying to analyze everything and figure out how I can improve as a whole.
I love the split test approach. I love to try to, gain insights from something that's being done to pull data and analytics, but also just kind of get that gut feel of like, hey, do people like this more? To dive into more of a specific when it comes to, doing that split test. So let's say, option X, you're doing what you've always done, and option Y is going to be a slightly different approach. Let's say that it performs slightly worse from a data and metrics perspective. Let's say 5-10% worse. But it seems to be a bit more buzz or engagement, or the audience likes it. How do you interpret that as a streamer? Is this something that, is there an option Z that comes afterwards where you're tweaking option Y a little bit, or do you run it back one more time to try to gather more data? How are you personally approaching that as a streamer like this?
Am I the only one who can't hear Lance right now?
No, I can't hear him either.
Hey, perfect.
Okay,
is
now.
my audio good now? You got me?
Yeah.
There we go.
Discord
We missed
died
the last
on me,
60
so.
seconds. We missed the last 45 seconds.
No worries. Let me rephrase the question here. So let's say, to be more specific about your split testing, which I think is an incredibly valuable idea. Let's talk about, like, okay, you've got an option X. It's what you've always done, right? And then you've got an option Y, which you're going to do things a bit differently. You try that approach. It performs, say, 5 to 10% worse by the data, right? A little bit less views. But the audience that is there seems to be buzzing, right? They seem to be a bit excited about it. It's a fresh take, whatever that is. How do you approach those types of results as a streamer? Do you do an option Z or Z for our British users? And, are you tweaking things more? Or are you running it back to gather more data? How do you approach that as a streamer? I'm going to Lexnos with this one.
So there's a few different ways you could approach that, because like you said, if it performs, say, 5 to 10% worse, but there seems to be a lot of engagement, a lot of people that do like it, you could wonder, on one hand, is it actually worse, or is it just that the current audience you have, maybe some of them don't like it, but there's this whole new pool of people that you could attract with that sort of new approach. which the only way to kind of have a better idea if that's the case is to continue trying, that option Y more than just once, get a feel for it, see if it brings new people into your audience that end up sticking around. And if that's the case, you could actually grow that way, even though there are some people of your current audience that preferred, X version of said thing.
Amazing. Roberto, do you have any other advice as well for a similar kind of, I guess, question?
What I would say when it comes to that is, because that was so well said, what I would look at is this. Oh wait, did the audio go out there?
No,
we're good.
We're good.
We're good. Okay. Now I lost my train of thought.
No, you got a stream that performs slightly lower than you were hoping compared to your first option. But the people that were there seem to be buzzing, seem to be really enjoying themselves, even more so than perhaps normal. How do you kind of move forward? Like what insights do you actually pull from that, and what's your approach to try to gather more data?
There's two things when that happens that I like to look at. There's two things. One, can I do the 80-20 rule of saying that it's worth pursuing 20% of content slightly underperforming to pursue a new audience that might be vibing with it, or to grow or cultivate an audience that I might enjoy really much and say, aside from the core followers, I really like what we're doing with this thing, and it may not be all of us, but maybe we can grow this because there's a desire, there's a demand for it, and this is new and this is fresh, and maybe this is the future. So maybe by pouring 20% in and then seeing if I can ever get the results to start to kind of match on that 80-20 scale. Because yes, it's underperforming, but it's because it's different. It means that I did something that wasn't as reliable and tried and true. So of course it should underperform because it's not what people are expecting from me. So there should be a little bit of that. It can feel disappointing, but the thing is, if I'm okay, if I'm making enough money, if I am getting enough views when I stick to what's normal, it might be worth pursuing and putting 20% into cultivating that new following or that new fresh idea and seeing if it could be the next big thing if I keep working on it. Because the reality is, when you do that new thing, it probably feels like it's underperforming, but it's probably not. Not if you compare it to when you first started doing what's been tried and true and what your staple content is. If you look at what your staple content was when you first started and how well that performed, and then you measured this new thing against that, the new thing is actually probably doing better on day zero than your original content did on day zero. So you might be unfairly comparing a chapter 1 to, you're comparing a Charmander to a Charizard at that point. You're comparing a Charmander to a Charizard, and you're not putting in the work to make it a mighty Charmeleon. And you can't just cheat and rare candy your way to a Charmeleon. So you got to be patient with it. You got to raise it right. You got to put in the work on that particular piece of content. The other thing I would tell you is there's also such thing as add but never subtract, which means that maybe I stick to my regular schedule and the same regular amount of content, and if I want to do something new, it's a bonus, meaning that, if I'm doing stuff and I'm doing 3 days a week, maybe if I want to pursue this other thing, that becomes a fourth day. And even if I'm not consistent at it, it's always extra, so that I have exactly the momentum and exactly all the what I've wanted to get, and I'm hitting my numbers. And then if this is going to underperform, it's not that I'm taking away from my 3 regular streams a week. It's that my 4th bonus stream is literally only a bonus, meaning I'm not compromising what I already have. So if this underperforms, it's still an extra because my other 3 days of the week that I normally do perform as normal.
That makes sense, and dear God, I hope we have some Pokemon enthusiasts in the chat to decipher some of the Charmander and Charizard points. They were actually quite good. They were quite good.
If you don't know, if you ain't be knowing that analogy, I can't help you. You're not cultured.
I love it. Yeah. Well, I love it. We'll move on. I do want to bring up another question from the chat. Our friends at Supercell have asked us, how do you feel about audience in-game engagement? Are there any good content ideas that get viewers involved with the stream? Lexnos, you touched on a few of these earlier. I would love to throw this one to you, and I actually have a bit to chime in on as well here. But as far as like in-game activities, like what can you actually utilize the games that you play for to get that engagement that you're looking for from the stream?
Yeah, I think just from experience, I can talk about Clash of Clans because that's what I've been playing consistently for a while. But in-game type events can be great to basically rally your community around trying to defeat certain challenges or unlock this new item, or what's the best way to use this special event troop, and stuff like that can be great for community engagement, because a lot of people that play the game, they might not care about the best way to do this or X or Y way to do this. They want to care about how you do this because you're the guy that they watch. So taking advantage of certain game aspects like that can be great for audience retention as well.
I love that, and that was something that I did back when I was streaming Clash of Clans in particular. Was a lot of I guess based design, like analysis tips, visiting other clans, like participating and doing friendly battles, friendly challenges. Actually visiting for clan wars, so to speak. There was a lot of opportunities to actually do that on stream. I think there's always an opportunity to showcase your viewers' stuff, right? Whatever you play, it could be a fashion show if you've got cool skins. It could be, base designs, rate them 1 through 10. Like there could be all kinds of stuff that you can do to engage the audience and bring them in. And it doesn't have to be a stream about that. To reference base design in particular, that was something that like OG Clash of Clans streamers, I'm talking 2014, 2015 time frame, that was something that 90% of the streams used to be was rate my base, and clashers would go out and try to get base ratings from streamers or content creators. And for a while that was cool. That was like, that flew as like good content, but that was the entire stream. It was just a bunch of base ratings, right? You can still do that to an extent, but you gotta add a little flair. You gotta make it a bit unique, and you have to make it a segment, like very, very small in nature, if you're gonna have success with some approach like that. But I would say everything from competitions and showcases all the way to viewer tournaments, where you've got people coming in, and there's even some sort of bracket potentially that you could create within your game. And I think that's really impactful and engaging, and it gets people to like not only participate, but I cannot tell you how many people that I personally have put on through putting a spotlight on some sort of community tournament or event. There are so many people that I recognize as streamers today that came up through those things and were able to garner a following of their own, which I think is super, super cool. So again, continuing to build community, continuing to like bring people together, doing those through community events, I think is a really popular way to go, and I think incredibly effective. Roberto, I'll throw the question to you as well if you have anything to tag along with that, as far as like in-game stuff that you could potentially do to increase engagement from your viewers.
I think when you set up stakes for your own challenges, like if I don't do this, then this will happen to me in real life or something like that. I think that is really good example. A good example of this is Brawl Stars, right? I lose, I get a tattoo. Ashlyn did that. She's been crushing it. She did that. Like, you remember that? That's one of her early videos. So like you can build in challenges. The chicken used to break an egg over his head. I think that's too expensive with inflation right now. So like, yeah. So you can find little interesting things that you can do with that. It's like spin the wheel, pick a card. Solar Fury, I think, used to do that. Spin the wheel, pick a card for Clash Royale. So there's a lot of different opportunities, I would say, to incorporate a mix of real life stakes with an in-game event that's happening, and get your community in on that. Some people even gamify it with their super chats and say, hey, if we get this many super chats, I'll do this thing. So I think that could be a way to get that real-time engagement and participation and get people invested in what's actually happening.
I love that personally, and incorporating a wheel or some element of chance, right? Whether it's picking things out of a hat, like some sort of like the gotcha mechanic, right? But in real life, where it's like something happens if And then obviously you can tie that to performance in a game, doing something, reaching a certain level, beating a certain base, getting a 3-star, whatever. Doesn't matter. You can tie that to some sort of real life consequence. That's great content overall. So with that, we are about at the end of our hour. I want to thank everybody for their attention today, but ultimately want to hear from you guys with any final thoughts. Lexnos, again, thanks for being here, my friend, but how would you close this one out, my friend?
Yeah, just want to remind everybody, do content that you enjoy. That's what's going to allow you to go long term in this sort of field. And like some of the stuff we were hitting on there at the end, keep your content fresh. You don't want your content to be very predictable throughout the whole live stream. That's some of the stuff Roberto was hinting at with the stakes. It's a great part about content. If the viewer doesn't know what's going to happen based on X or Y result, it can be so much more engaging. So just try to think out of the box and just overall have fun with your content. At the end of the day, that's why we do this.
Amazing. And Roberto, what about for you?
I want to say, first of all, I want to shout out some of the creators in the chat. I want to shout out Flint, Michigan Gaming. I want to shout out Matic. I think the chicken actually did a drive-by here. And so definitely want to shout out some of the Supercell creators that we've worked with over the last year. One of the things that I would say you can take away from all of this is to just be very intentional and thoughtful about your live streams. Be thoughtful about the content being something that you can repurpose so you get more mileage out of the live streams. Use your live streams to farm footage for your edited VODs or even for your short format. Look at repurposing. Look at how you can make that simpler on yourself. Look at AI tools like Opus Clip. Look at different things you could be doing and look at the benefits potentially of multi-streaming and the tools that are available there. But be intentional about that. Oh, if I'm doing this, why am I doing it? I would also tell you to really look at how intentional you are and thoughtful you are about what kind of community am I building? What are the standards? What are going to be some of the culture of the community that I'm building? And so that's also going to help you stand out. A lot of people think that they have to be a personality-driven creator, but there's another thing you could be doing. You could be a community-driven creator, and you could build a culture that represents something in your community and say, hey, this is how we move, and it's a little bit different. Here's how we have fun over here. Here's kind of the standard that we hold down. And I think that creates a very unique experience and something people want to be a part of. And I think it's underestimated how valuable live streaming is for making people feel a part of something bigger than themselves instead of just following a popular person. Being part of a community is much more valuable to people, and I think that it's underestimated.
It really can. Live stream communities can be some of your 1,000 biggest fans out there. I want to thank Lexnos and Roberto for their time today, sharing their wisdom and insights and experiences with us. My name has been Powerbang. Again, thank you for your all attention. If you like this, there's more where it came from. If you're a Supercell creator, get on over to the creator's website at creators.supercell.com. We've got dozens and dozens of workshops, masterclasses, courses, and panels for you guys to consume, hopefully get better at your craft, take some tips away, and make it a great day. So for Powerbang and the rest of the Creator Academy, big thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys later.